All right, we're here with Krystal Griffith from checkinwithmissg.com, and she's going to be talking to us about how to turn our Teachers Pay Teachers resources into a print-on-demand book that you can sell on Amazon and other places. Before we begin, Krystal, tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from? What did you teach, and how did you get into this business?
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing me into your group today. I am originally from Portland, Oregon, but we recently relocated to Texas. So I don't think I'm an official Texan yet, but I like it here, so I aspire to be. I was in the classroom for 7 years. I taught special education and at an elementary level, but I also taught in a lot of community settings and worked with older kids that were transitioning out of foster care and into a more independent living type of program. So yeah, so I came to TPT in 2015, and that is where I hang out now.
So, how long were you doing TPT before you started making workbooks?
For me, it was a pretty quick. I didn't come into the like TPT gold rush as they call it. So I had to get pretty savvy about like SEO and that sort of thing straight away. So as soon as I was able to replace my teaching salary, I was immediately like, well, if I want this to be stable, it needs to come from more than one place. So I started kind of playing around with things to see what I could figure out.
Nice. Okay, well, the floor is yours. We're very looking forward to this training that you're going to give us. So you should be able to share your screen. If not, just let me
Yeah.
know. But go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Let me see here. Okie doke. So do you see my repurpose your teaching resources? Good. Okay. Let me yeah, so that's me. My story is checking with Mrs. G. And so when I first came into workbooks, I was kind of looking to do four things. So the first and most important thing was to get all of my eggs out of one basket. So if all of your income is coming from TPT, for me, it was a little bit scary. My husband was a paramedic at the time, and working crazy hours, and we had three little kids, so I really wanted to be able to depend on it. But I was pretty picky, right? So I was like, I will die on the hill of not wanting to sell my own site. I don't want to do sales tax. I don't want to have to figure out how to drive traffic. And so I nailed these two. My next thought was like, I'm going to work within my existing brand. And I at first failed miserably with this one until I found workbooks. And then I wanted it to be passive. And I put passive in quotes because, like, we all know that passive is just not true, right? So yeah, so that's kind of what I was looking for um, when I found workbooks. So I started writing fiction, and you have to work really, really hard in fiction to get your books seen and get them to sell. And I was doing pretty well with it, but I thought, like, what if I apply this skill set to my TPT products and turn them into workbooks? Let's see what that space looks like. And what I found was there were not very many people in that space. And so it was really easy to find success, even compared to the success that I had found on TPT. Um, so for this presentation, I'm hoping to answer four things and then like anything else you want to know. So what is print on demand and how it can work within your existing business? Because I think this is a really overlooked component when you think about diversifying. It can be really easy to pile a lot of new stuff on your plate. So having something that works within the business you've already created is great. A couple common mistakes to avoid and where to start if you are wanting to move forward with this. And it sounds like we already have some people in the group that are in this boat, so that's awesome. So when I say print on demand, what I mean is that you are on your end uploading a file, a PDF, just like you would to TPT, but on the user end, the buyer is getting a physical workbook mailed to them. So you're not having to order a bunch of copies, store them in your garage, and then when someone buys it, like rush home to ship it. All of that is eliminated because the printing house closest to the buyer is going to do all of that for you. I use Amazon KDP, but there are other options. You can also use an aggregator like Ingram Spark, and they're going to send it out to like the big five publishing houses. So they'll send it out to like Kobo and Barnes and Noble, and that's Walmart's brand, and all the kind of the big publishing houses for you. Your royalties are a bit smaller. But yeah, so there are options within this space. I think Amazon's kind of like the one-stop shop, and they have so many tools to help your product get seen that I've kind of stuck with them. But there are other options. So that's kind of what I mean when I say print on demand. Um, and then how does it work within your existing business model? So one, you can repurpose so many of the things you've already done, and create this like brand new revenue stream out of it. So you can mine your old products that are already living on TPT and kind of reimagine them and have another way to generate revenue from what you've already done. And then the other part that's really nice is that you can do all of this underneath your existing audience that you've built. So you can use your same socials, and if you have an email list, you might have a new little funnel within your email list, but it's not a totally brand new group of people that you're trying to target. So that is great for all the reasons, right? You're not doing a new logo, a new all the things. So far, everyone's okay. Okay. Um, so I have just main two mistakes that I see over and over. So I've had about a little over 100 people go through this process with me since December. And I see two things over and over and over. And the first one is very much a common misconception. So I have a lot of people that say, like, oh, it was super easy to upload it, but nothing's happened because you need a really big following. And that is not true. I have never had a big following and I still don't. But I've found a lot of success on Amazon. So just to share like what that means, because it can mean different things for everybody. I have one workbook that's done about 40,000, well, over $40,000 just on its own. And that same product on TPT is not even a fraction of that, maybe a couple thousand. So it can be very successful and you really don't need a big following. If you put all of the pieces in place from the beginning as far as like your marketing and your SEO. And then the other biggest mistake. This is where I put like, hey, don't do this, okay? Because this is the one, don't do this. Um, you can't think of your audience on Amazon as another teacher. So what I see a lot of people do is they have like a beautiful writing intervention curriculum. I'm talking about myself here. And I post it on Amazon the first time as writing intervention for special education and all of our like beautiful words that we love to use. But the buyer on Amazon, even though they may be shopping for the same student, um, it's maybe like mom or grandma or a caregiver, and they're probably going to Amazon and they're not typing that. They might be typing sentence writing practice. And so I really had to change my mindset and figure out where my Amazon audience is at because I still want to give them really high quality teaching materials. But if I'm like layering it with all this teacher jargon, they're never going to find it and it doesn't help anyone. So trying to meet your audience where they're at, and change your wording and phrasing to match what they're actually looking for is for me the number one most important thing when you're starting out. So don't just take your TpT product, take a second version of it, place it on Amazon. I think maybe it could work for some people, but in my experience, that has not been as successful as doing a little bit of research and meeting people where they're at. we can come back to that one if you have any questions. So now for a couple do's of where you can start if you want to go down this route. And I really think that it would be beneficial for many people who are already in the TPT space. So the first thing is you got to figure out where this is going to fit in your workflow process. So I see people kind of in two camps. So either they're like, this is it. I'm all in and I'm putting everything else on hold and I'm going to go into my TPT store, see what I have, and I'm going to spend like the next 2 months just making workbooks. And that's definitely one way to do it, and that's great. But the other way you can do it is to just add it as an additional step in your workflow. So right now for me, writing fiction is still my main thing. And I put out a lot of fiction books in a short time. So it didn't make sense for me to stop that, something which is working, to go back and create every workbook for my 100 and something TpT products. So instead, I add it as a step in my workflow process. So I will create the main file. I will do all of the content pieces so that I know it's solid. Then on one day, I will make the cover and the blurb and the keywords and everything for the Amazon workbook version. And then the next day, I will take that same base file and make the cover and the thumbnails and the preview for TPT. So I've only added one day or a couple hours to my workflow. But in the end, instead of having one product that I put on TPT, I have two products that I can sell to two different audiences. And I think for a lot of people, this is not the more exciting option, right? Because it's like a slow process. But this really is, at least for me, a very solid way to do this, because over time you're going to have a back catalog of things on Amazon just like you do on TPT, and you can build them side by side without completely neglecting one or the other. So I think that's your first step, is to figure out logistically how do you want to tackle this, because if you go straight into your back catalog, many people are doing it this way. I think it's great. It will take over your life. So if you're like, it's in you to dedicate some time to it, I am here for it. But I don't think there's anything wrong with adding it as an additional step. And I think it can be actually really a pretty successful way to do it. The next thing that you really want to do is to research your category and your audience. So I have a free training inside of my Facebook group that shows you exactly how I do the keyword research. I wasn't sure. It's fairly detailed, but it's in my Facebook group. You can watch it for free, and it shows you exactly how I go through that process. Uh, the category is really important, right? So if you were to upload your workbook to books, children's books, you might need, these are just numbers I'm pulling out of the sky, but I do spend a lot of time on this site. So you might need like 4,000 sales to get to that top 100. And getting to the top 100 is a big deal because you're getting a lot of visibility and a lot of boost in the algorithm when you're in the top 100 of a category. So books, children's books, you drop it in, you need 4,000 sales. Well, you might be able to put it in a subcategory like books, children's books, learning disabilities. And in that category, you may only need like 5 sales to get to the top 100. And you're still getting the same visibility boost as the other category, which needed 4,000 sales. So researching your category is just gold as far as getting traffic and visibility to your workbook. Don't skip that step. It's really valuable. And the tool that I use to do it, that I'll show you inside the training in the Facebook group, um, makes it very simple. Like there's no algorithm algorithming involved. You just can look it up. And the same thing with keywords, right? So it's going to show you exactly how competitive the keywords are. It's kind of like Uber Suggest or any of the other keyword scrapers that you may have used with Google, but this is Amazon specific. And the best part about it, like once you purchase it, you have unlimited searches and you own it. It's not a subscription or anything like that. So if you're really serious about workbooks, like that is such a good place to start, because it's gonna help you get in front of people, which is the whole game, right? Because we already know the products are good because you're teachers and you know what you're doing. So it's just about how to make them show up. Um, and then the third thing I recommend is once you kind of know the category and the audience and the keywords that you're looking at, and you know how you're going to attack this, I would say you have to go through your TPT store with fresh eyes, and you might have to recruit people to help you because you guys, we are our own language as teachers. Like, I did not realize the extent. Ask ask someone in your house who's not a teacher to look at your TBT store and it's like, "Oh, how would you describe that?" And you will be shocked, okay? Like, I'm like, "Oh, writing intervention. How would you describe it?" My husband's like, "Oh, practice copying, you know, but it's so valuable, right? Because like my husband's the dude going on Amazon typing in, oh, my kid's teacher said he needs practice writing. So he's like, Amazon, practice writing, right? Like you need to hear people outside of the education space explain the products in your store because that's a lot of who's going to be looking for your products. And we want to make sure that when they get there, they're finding high quality teaching products made by real educators. But they're not going to find it if they don't know to search for those high level education jargon terms that we often are using. It's kind of painful this part because we spend a lot of time and money and wrapped up in learning all of this and becoming an expert at it, and then we have to strip it all away and call it copying, tracing. But if it gets the materials in the hands of the right people, I think it's really worth it. Um, so yeah, if I step The course, last screen I that just shows you spoiler alert, I exactly the do whole have a process step. From I think I want to make a workbook to the workbook is posted, and then also how to make it go with Amazon ads. And so I also have just a free Facebook group, and you can find the keyword training in there. And yeah, I would love for you to join me in either place. And I would love to hear any questions you have.
Yeah, Crystal. So like I know a children's book like preschool 5 to 7 is like around 40 pages. Is there kind of a standard size for workbooks? Like a
Hmm.
number of pages that they would like to see or that sells better?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the trick about page number is that your page count and your printing shipping cost go hand in hand. So here's what you should start with. Go on
Okay.
Amazon. There's a free page count um, calculator where you can put in the hypothetical number of pages and it will tell you how much that book will be to print and ship. So if you are looking to do a very simple workbook with a low page count, you might find that 40 pages is the same cost as 80 pages. And it might
Oh,
help you decide. But then maybe 82 pages is going to cost you $3 extra to ship. And then you're going to
oh,
have to charge so much more to make a profit. So that calculator is free, and
okay.
I am on there all the time. Uh, and I think the other thing about page count is to look at the other top 100 books in the space
Hmm.
you want to be in and
Okay.
try to be within their range. So it's a little counterintuitive. It's not something where you want to be like the outlier, right? Like if everyone's between 40 and 50 pages, I would say like make yours between 40 and 50. You don't want to be like, but you could buy mine
Right.
for 80 because this is like what people are buying for whatever reason. So trying to match that and stay within it.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just gonna ask, how much is the course, Crystal?
The course is 197.
Okay.
On March 15th, it's going to go up to 249 because I'm going to put the new ads training in there. Right now,
Okay.
I never want to do an Amazon ads training because I don't feel like an expert, and there is an intro to Amazon ads already in there. So I'm calling it a non-ads training, but I'm gonna just fill it up with everything, everything that you need, stopping short of taking a full-blown ads course.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like you take the product from TpT and you move it to Canva, let's say, and that's where you work on it to make it Amazon, to be able to place it on Amazon and sell it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you can do it in Amazon or in PowerPoint. The only difference is you won't be able to put a password on the file. So you can flatten the JPEGs, but you cannot password protect it. So if you're working with a clip artist who either doesn't let their clip art be distributed places besides TpT, or if they require you to have it password protected, you won't be able to include that. Otherwise, it's the same.
If I use Bearwood, so it's flattened, is everything's okay like that? And the links would be also like clickable still?
Well, it'll be a printed workbook, so there won't be any links unless you can
Yes.
make an ebook version,
It-
depending on the content of your book. But sometimes what I like to do is just put a QR code at the end of the book, that leads back to a landing page. So that way I can still capture people's emails or send them where I want them to go. But the links, obviously, since the links aren't clickable, a QR code is pretty,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's a good workaround.
What's your experience on workbooks and ebooks?
Yeah. Well, I think that people that get ebooks are looking for more of like a story. So I think there is a little bit of confusion, and you'll see that I could talk about reviews on Amazon all day, but the long story short is they don't have to buy the workbook to review it. They don't even have to have ever seen a copy. They can, like, a person can just randomly go and review something, right? It might even be for the wrong product. This happens on my fiction books all the time, so and so did this, I didn't like it. Who's that dude? No idea. And Amazon does not care. So they won't take them down for you. They won't adjust it, so that's that's it with reviews. So if you do an ebook, I think the biggest issue would be somebody's expecting like a kid's storybook because that's what they're used to in an ebook format, and they're going to leave you a review that says like, there were blank spaces after the questions, this kind of thing that you're like, yes, right.
They wouldn't be able to print the ebook?
Um, no, I think that the ebooks are usually delivered as EPUBs. So, I don't think there's a way to easily print EPUBs. You could, Amazon does have like just a digital download section, so you could upload it as a digital download, not as a book, and try to sell it that way.
Um, inside margins.
Yeah.
So my workbook that I made, the words go all the way into the margin because I'm going straight from my 8.5 by 11 TpT resource and then just turn. So what should I have done differently?
Yeah. This is one of the things that Amazon, it's worth it, but they're also very fickle. So in the course, I have a template, PowerPoint template with a gray box. And I just keep everything inside of that gray box, and then I delete the gray box at the end. Or some workbooks, depending on what it is. I have the gray box there still. So when I do my product initially, I build it in this template inside the gray box, and then I have the TpT version and then duplicate it for Amazon. So that way I don't have to adjust them after the fact because yes, the margins can be like ridiculous. Yes.
Also in the group, I saw once that one of the members put that the pages are clear, that shows both sides. She
Oh,
ordered her own book, her own first copy, and on both sides it was clear, like so you could see the other side from it.
Yeah. So the printing quality does vary depending on the printing house that prints it. But the bummer part is when you're selecting paper, so Amazon gives you two options, like white or cream, but you can't really, you don't have any control over the printing quality. So occasionally, if I'm going to do a graphic or a line that's dark black, I will opt to make it gray instead, knowing that there's a chance the paper could be very thin.
What do you do for page numbers, or do you have them?
Yeah, I do have them. I put them in the footer so that they update automatically. The biggest thing is to remember that they are flipping through this like a book. So we're not used to that with TpT products, and sometimes you'll find like you're, starting a new section on the back of a page. So you may have to enter blank slides, and that's going to factor into your page count. So Amazon's going to count every single page that they have to print, even if it's blank. And so yeah, sometimes you may have to do one-sided pages to make it make sense when you're flipping through. But I usually just leave the page numbers on all of them anyway. I haven't had any complaints about it. So
Just chasing this rabbit trail for a second. Did you go ahead and create like a new website and everything for this
oh
other
yeah.
brand?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So inside of your KDP account, you can have multiple pen names. You can have up to 3 pen names for each KDP account, but they will let you have more. So I have a publishing company, and then underneath the publishing company, I have multiple pen names because you don't want to cross the also bots. I mean, even if it was like, so wouldn't want to cross your also bots are what Amazon is going to recommend your book to people who also bought this, who also bought that. And so you never want it to be confused about who to show your book to.
You said you created a publishing company. Is that just an LLC, or do you do anything else with this publishing company?
Yeah, initially it was just LLC, and then just kind of multiple umbrellas like DBAs underneath the LLC,
Hmm.
and now we've branched out into other things. So I have like fiction membership and like all other things underneath these different
Nice.
pieces. Yeah.
For
But
us, we don't need to create a publishing company,
no,
right?
no, it can be underneath your exact same your same LLC, especially if you're keeping all the branding the same, the audience is the same, it's just a matter of like risk, right? Like if you want your everything separate or not for your like legal purposes.
Do you have any good strategies for cover the cover images, or not image, but what the cover looks like?
Yeah, I try to make it match the top 100 for sure. So I think one of the first things you do when you're kind of studying your genre and your category is to look at the other covers that are selling well and see like common colors, common font styles, and you're never going to copy it, of course, but definitely keeping it in line. Um, with the others that are selling really well is a really good idea.
And then what information do you put on the back cover?
Yeah, so on the back cover, you could do a couple of different ways. There is no ability to create a preview in Amazon. They do it for you. So you just upload the file and then they're going to choose what they show in that look inside. And infuriatingly, it's almost never what you want it to be. And they also take their time. So 3 days later, you might have just the back cover. A week after that, you may get a look inside, or sometimes it takes longer. So the back cover can be a really good place to add your other workbooks in the series that you might want them to buy. It can be a really good place to put an example of 1 or 2 of the pages because they may not get to see that page and you may not get to choose which one they do see. So if you have like a really good example page, the back cover can be a really good place to display that. Other people will also do their branding on the back. So their logo or like a blurb about their company. I tend to do the pictures because I think that it leads to more sales.
That's a great idea. Yeah, We're gonna have to look and see what you did. That's cool. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and you can create you can't do a bundle, but you can create a series page within Amazon where you can advertise all of your books that are going to be sold to the same target audience. And so any of the books that are in that on that series page are great great candidates to also be on the back cover.
Are you able to change your subcategories after you've published the book?
Yeah, you can change your categories, you can change your keywords. You cannot, so if you change more than 10% of your interior file, they're going to make you make a new edition. You can change your cover, you just have to make sure your title and subtitles stay exactly the same. So they are sticklers for this. Whatever is in that subtitle has to be displayed on the cover.
Because many of the members in this group are new, you would say that this is like the perfect time to start building what your workbook's going to be, because you don't have to fix any of your files. You can just kind of do what you were doing, where you talk about with like the right margins and stuff like that. So give them a little bit more idea of like what they should be doing as they're rolling out their product line, so that they can be building things with a workbook in mind. How can you help them towards that goal?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to definitely make sure you're working within the margins. If you don't, if you don't do the course, it's okay. You can come up with the margins on your own by going into Amazon and uploading it as if you are going to publish it, and it will flag you right away and say, page 42, too close. So you can also figure it out that way. But definitely once you have a file that works and that they approve, save it, use that as your template for everything moving forward. So that is number one. And I think the other big thing is to just make sure that you're kind of keeping an ear in both camps. So if you're like, this is a really solid teaching product, also, it wouldn't hurt to look on Amazon, look for keywords that have to do with that product, so that you kind of have in mind what the second version is going to be. Is it going to be just a lot of rote practice of this one skill? Is it going to be a more comprehensive workbook? Having that in mind as you build that initial file is really, really helpful. I just uploaded a workbook last week to Amazon, and in Amazon, I called it social skills, some like social skills group workbook or something like that. And then I took the pieces out of that and put them on TpT, social skills dictionary, SEL practice, but having that end goal in mind from the beginning really saves you a lot of time, a lot of time. So in the way you would research your TpT product, like it's a good idea to just spend a little time researching the Amazon version as well up front, I think, because then you know where you're headed.
Yeah, I told some people in this group, I tried to take a bunch of my resources and turn it into a workbook, and it took me so long. And so I really wish I had started with the end in mind, knowing that this, like what you're saying, just build it thinking you're going to have a workbook. It'd be, I wish I could go back in time and do that.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. It makes such a big difference. And that's why I know it's like the less appealing option, right? Because it's so cool to think like you go and make a big splash, have this huge catalog of books. But sometimes I really think the better option is to just do it, add one day to your, if it takes you 3 weeks, have it take 3 weeks in a day and have one day dedicated to making the workbook version. Because often actually never have my bestsellers on TpT also been my bestsellers on Amazon, literally never. So
Does this mean that when you're making out a product line that you're going to turn into a workbook, you're trying to uniform things like margins, but also like the borders and the font and things like that, so that it's more cohesive in the one workbook?
yes, so I've only used like two fonts at this point. Because I know that they're ones that are okay to sell anywhere and I want them to be recognizable. So I am all in with the two fonts. My products are for older kids, so I don't have a ton of clip art. And so yeah, the whole the whole thing is very uniform. And then after I have that base file that's really solid, when I split it into two and do the workbook version and the TPT version, that's where I get like a little bit more creative with it. So it's not the exact same product. I add stuff to the TPT version or take away stuff, you know, so it's not an identical match. But I don't do any of that until I have like a very solid base file to start with.
Krystal, if I wanted to start with something like a music dictation book, so let's say it's sort of like a budget planner where, you know, it would be 40 pages of almost the same thing.
Mhm.
You can do that too, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
like just a simple place to start, you know,
yeah.
like, and then, okay. And it's like when you get a budget planner, social media planner from, you get it off Amazon, right? Same kind of thing. Is that what it would look like?
Yeah, so it'll just show
Okay,
up like an actual workbook. And I think this strategy will work for coloring books or journals, or you know, there's going to be a box that they make you check that says this is a low content book if it doesn't have enough um stuff in there.
okay,
That
okay,
does nothing except for not make you have an ISBN number. And it changes where they put you in search, but
okay.
it doesn't impact your ability to sell it. I've never seen like reduced sales because of it. So yeah, they'll just
Yeah, I just
probably
thought it would might be an easy place to start, right? Just
yeah,
that, get that. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty exciting to get that first book too, right? Like there's something happens in your brain when you're like holding, oh my gosh, I made this, you know?
Yeah.
And when you
Well, I have
tell
an
people
idea
you're a
for,
published
yeah,
author, they just go
yeah.
crazy.
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Um, for those of us in the group or for those of us watching who don't already have an Amazon KDB account,
Yeah.
KDP, I'm pretty sure you need a bank account that you wire payments to. So like on Teachers Pay Teachers, we can have it pay.
Mm.
Well, maybe we can't anymore. We might have to have a bank account on TPT too. But is that accurate? You have to have a bank account that you're going to wire the
Yeah.
money to? And can it
Yeah,
be your
you'll need
personal account?
I wouldn't recommend it, but I probably could. Yeah, I think that you need probably like a I guess you could just open a KDP account under your personal name if you wanted to. I don't know if it's a good idea, but you could I think you just need like a business bank account, an EIN number, and whatever LLC you wanna use to set it up. Yeah, that should be it. You
Yeah.
should be able, it's pretty straightforward after that. They are very, you have to follow the rules. You have to. They will just shut your store down with no explanation for any reason. This is like a very real concern. So if you are not putting your books inside of Kindle Unlimited, which you can't if you're going to have it also on TPT, then that's really helpful because that's where a lot of people get into trouble. So when you're setting up your account, just make sure you do not check the Kindle Unlimited box. That is what you want to stay away from.
Why? What's wrong with Kindle
Kindle
Unlimited?
Unlimited is just promising exclusivity of the content to Amazon. And so if you're also posting it on TPT or somewhere else, you're violating their terms. And then when they discover it, they're just going to shut your account down. So that's like it's hard to mess it up, but that is one way you could mess it up. So don't click the Kindle Unlimited box unless you are doing something totally different, you know?
And the other rule with pricing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can't price it lower on another website like Teachers Pay Teachers, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And it's kind of to me, it's kind of a gray area because the products are not exactly the same. One is a digital download and one is like a physical workbook. And I'm changing the content on each of them. So I think you have to see where you land with that because for me they're different like content wise, but also because I'm not doing a digital version on Amazon. I'm doing only the paperback. Um, so so yeah, but that is something to be careful of. If it's going to be the exact same thing, then yeah, you would have to think about pricing.
Yeah.
Crystal, I have a quick question. So I'm on the create a KDP account. Do you suggest that sign in with your Amazon account or create a new one? And I don't have LLC. Is it possible to create KDP account without LLC?
Yeah, I think they'll let you do it with just your social security number. I think like legally, maybe if something goes wrong, it would be tied to you as a person instead of tied to your business. So, I don't know if that's something you feel comfortable with. I probably wouldn't, but like technically could you? Like probably, yeah.
As a disclaimer, neither Crystal nor I are giving tax advice
Yeah,
or
no,
business
no, I'm
setting up
not.
advice. But you can make a recommendation, and yes, Crystal's right. It's best to separate the business from your personal, for legal reasons, which is the most expedient and affordable way is by setting up an LLC. And then you definitely, it would be just a good accounting practice to just go open a separate bank account in the business name, or as she was saying earlier, at a DBA. But I think that costs a couple $100, doesn't it, to do a DBA?
In Texas, it was just like 25 bucks and you're good.
Oh,
But
nice.
Texas has been crazy, so I don't know.
We here, and I should,
Canada, it's not expensive. It's not expensive in Canada.
okay.
In New York, I
No.
got one for $25 as well.
Oh, nice.
And then just a checking account and email, and that was it. I was off to the races.
Sorry, Beth. A DBA is a bank account that's in your name. So for me, it'd be Chris Gierski, but DBA stands for doing business as, and then my company name. And that would allow me to like write a check as the business name, I'm sorry, accept a check made out to the business name is really what I should have said. Anything else about setting up your seller's account that we should be cognizant of?
When you get to the point where you are setting up your ads account, which the profit margins are small, and I do think you probably do need to be prepared. They're not expensive. You don't have to create any graphics for them. You don't have to do the targeting on your own. It's like just a couple clicks of the button. It's wonderful. Especially if you're used to doing Facebook ads, you're like, oh, this is a dream. But it is really important, I think, to set up. You can do like $5 or less a day for a month until your also bots kind of get trained. And in order to do that, they are going to make you put some kind of payment method in there. Just to even set up your portfolio. So that's the only other spot where I see people get kind of held up is because they aren't expecting that. But I think it's really an important step, especially after you have a couple workbooks that are going to be like targeting the same audience. It's really nice to be able to have a little bit of ads to push them to the right people.
So I read online that if you want to publish a book, you have to, I think you have to email or mail the Library of Congress to get an ISBN number. Is that true, Crystal?
No. So if you want to like copyright your work, you can do that. But if you just want to publish on Amazon, they will give you a free ISBN number with just like one click of a button. It won't work anywhere else. But if you are, so the reason you would want to get your own ISBN is like, you're like, I'm going to order 4,000 of these workbooks from a print house in another country, have them floated over here, store them in a warehouse, and I want to then go like sell them in small batches to local bookstores and also everywhere on the internet. Then you need your own ISBN number. But if you're just like, I'm going to upload this file to Amazon and then they're going to do everything else, they can assign you an ISBN number.
Perfect, thank you. What would be the advantage of copyrighting your work? Isn't it automatically copyrighted when you upload it to Amazon?
Yeah, I think like anything you create, you automatically have a copyright, but I don't know if someone ever wanted to like take you to court about it. I don't know that it would stand from what I understand. I have never done the copyright for my stuff. I have not had any problems yet, so let's knock on wood.
Okay.
Occasionally, Amazon will ask you to prove your copyright when you're first uploading something if it already exists somewhere else. I've had this a couple times, like, prove that you wrote this book, and I'm like, just me in my office. Like, what do you want to know? And so I end up having to show them emails back and forth with my editor to prove that I was the person, and then it was fine. I've only had that a couple times. But if you are uploading it to Amazon first, I think that eliminates the issue, and I've never had them do it with the TpT product. So, so far so good.
I assume you're using an editor for your nonfiction writing, not for your workbooks. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Krystal?
What was that keyword plugin that you were talking about for Amazon?
Yeah, so it's called Publisher Rocket. It's really incredible. Yes, I definitely recommend it. Definitely recommend it.
And that's a Chrome extension?
No, it's the software, but
Okay.
it's not a subscription, so it's like once you buy it, you own it, and it's unlimited searches, which is so crazy, right? And it also gives you the category data. It gives you a lot of good information in there. So definitely recommend.
Krystal, thank you so much for all of that information. It was very helpful. One more time, tell us where people can go to learn more about you, your course, your Facebook group, everything else.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I would love you guys to join the Facebook group. It's TpT to POD, repurposing teaching resources into profitable workbooks. And inside there, you'll find the links to the course and my website and everywhere else.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.